Hey yo guys, what's up and welcome back to Toe Tags Metal Reviews, and today we're getting our first impressions of the new releases from Anvil and 200 Stab Wounds. So, first time covering Anvil.
Finally.
Not our first time covering 200 Stab Wounds because we reacted to two other videos.
We did.
That were singles from this album.
We did.
But I want to start with Anvil.
Anvil.
One and Only is the album name. These guys have been around for a long time, forever. These guys are pioneers in the world of metal. Canadian pioneers, Toronto Canadian pioneers, which is awesome. This is a band I've listened to before, but I've never been a fan. I've never thought they were that good. And I hate saying that because, you know, I kind of grew up in the same city as these guys, so to speak. So I want to like them more than I really do, but I'm just being honest. I have to be honest with how I feel. And I never really liked this band growing up. There's other bands that I just much preferred. So this was actually my first time really like focusing on an Anvil album, really trying to get into it and see what this band really has to offer. And I gotta say it's fine if you're into like really old school sounding stuff, because that's what this presents. It's really old school sounding, and I didn't really expect anything other than that, so I wasn't surprised, but it's hard in this day and age, considering all the bands that are out and all the different styles and talent that's out there. It's hard to really get behind something like this and really enjoy it as much as you probably should, because it does, like, fundamentally, it's a really solid album, right? If you think back to the fundamentals and the origins and the progression of metal, this is like kind of where it started, right? Anvil's one of those bands that's just like from the late 70s, early 80s, we're kind of just like spearheading the metal sound, okay? So if you like that kind of stuff, this album's for you, right? And I'm sure the rest of their discography is in the same kind of vein. The thing that I kind of was a bit bothered by, and this is probably a bit unfair to say because it's true, is that these guys sound old. And I mean, they're old, but they sound old. And I've made this comment before about other bands like Judas Priest and things like this, but I want to take it back when I said it about Judas Priest. When I hear this, it sounds like I hear elderliness in the music, especially the vocals. And that's not really a dig. I'm not trying to say that's a bad thing, but I guess just an observation, maybe, I'm not sure.
I do feel like, though, even though that like may be present, they still sound like the old school style. It doesn't sound like an attempt at trying to make a modern version of this. It sounds like this could have been made way back in the day, and
it does. That's true, and that's probably a testament to their style, and that's probably something that they're doing to appease their fans that have been with them for so long, decades. I thought these songs were fine. I thought some of them were a little bit better than others. None of them really were crazy to me. I think the best song is Condemned Liberty, which is track number 11, right near the end of the album. I just really like the energy and the riffs on this one. Runaway was another cool one with some fun riffing, but there was a few songs where I kept getting reminded of other bands, and I'll just give you a specific example. Track number 3, Fight for Your Rights, the riff sounds very similar to Queen's Stone Cold Crazy. If you're not familiar with the song, Metallica actually did a cover of this song on Garage Inc., so some people might be more familiar with that song. But the riff, they're not identical, but if you listen to them side by side, you're like, okay, yeah, they're doing something there. There's also another riff in the song World of Fools, which immediately reminded me of The Trees Have Eyes by King Diamond. Now, I don't know if I would go as far as saying, oh, Anvil ripped off King Diamond. It's probably a coincidence, but I mean, I kept getting things like this, like I heard some Black Sabbath stuff, lots of Judas Priest stuff on here that I'm referencing, but I really can't complain because, like I said, Anvil's been around longer than a lot of these bands, or at least as long as some of these bands. Even before they were Anvil, they were Lips, like they were playing as Lips, you know, doing that thing. So, my overall thoughts on the album was that it was fun, it was enjoyable if you're in the mood for that old school type of stuff, which often I am. And I feel like listening to old school stuff, so I can put something like this on and really enjoy it. But if I'm not in the mood for that stuff, this album's gonna be pretty much a bore for me. It just really depends on my mood. So overall it's good, it just depends on the mood, that's it.
Yeah, Anvil's a band I've known about for a while, but never really took the time to really dive in. I've probably heard some stuff here and there, but you know, you took a lot of words out of my mouth. It does sound old school style. I guess that's kind of, you know, what I mentioned earlier, is that it sounds like it's like a time traveling record almost.
Yeah.
It could have been taken from like the 80s.
It does sound like that.
And I think that's pretty cool, especially being released in 2024. Some songs kind of just came and went and weren't huge, but there were actually some highlight tracks, and I liked that. I liked Fight for Your Rights, Golden Diamonds, I liked as well. Condemn Liberty, I agree on that. I kind of feel like a few, like after Dead Man's Shoes, stuff kind of trails off a little bit, but then picked up with those last few tracks. But overall, it was not bad. Like, it had some pretty cool tracks in there. Some that were good, some that were whatever. But yeah, the highlights are definitely good ones, especially if you like the old school style. And once again, I think that is one of the biggest strengths of this album, is that it totally is authentic. It's a very authentic, old school heavy metal album.
Yep, well said. So on to the second album of the day, Manual Manic Procedures by 200 Stab Wounds. So, we did react to the two singles. We reacted to track number 1, Hands of Eternity.
Yep.
And we reacted to track number 8, Ride the Flatline, featuring Jamie Morgan of Code Orange. Both those songs still slap. Like, they slap to fucking hell. Especially Hands of Eternity. I just love the riffing change-ups in this song are so juicy. There's the one spot where the tempo speeds up, then it leads into this crazy bridge where they just allow the bass to take over. I mean, just a phenomenal song. Just chef's kiss. Every song on this album is just deadly in its own way, I found, right? After listening to it, I listened to it twice, and I'm just like, deadly riffs. I love this, like track number 3, for example, which is the title track. This old school style drum and bass kind of intro.
Love that intro.
Love the intro. It's so old school sounding, but it feels modern. And that's one thing I love about this band, is it feels so like it's really pulling from the ancestry of the genre, but it still sounds so fresh. It doesn't sound like it's dated at all. And it sounds like they're adding like little different sprinkled, technicalities and stuff like that to make it just sound so much cooler.
I think this band is what a lot of modern death metal bands should aspire to be.
Yes, I agree.
Like, this is where this genre, like, this album is basically an example of what this genre could be today.
Yeah, and I think there's other bands that are kind of doing it, but they're not doing it as well as 200 Stab Wounds is doing it here. So you got 9 songs. It's a 29-minute long album, which is a little concerning. But it right in smack dab in the middle of that, in track number 5, you got Led to the Chamber / Liquefied, which is an instrumental, which kind of threw me off. I was like, there's an instrumental on here? That surprised me. I thought it was a decent instrumental. I'll have to go back and listen to it again with more focus to really see if it's really awesome. I thought it was fine. But 2 tracks later, Defiled Gestation, this song, I don't know how the total length of the song is about 4 minutes, I think 4.5 minutes. But the vocals don't kick in until after like about 2.5 minutes in. And I was like, is this another instrumental? But it fucking goes hard, and it just slaps so hard. It's so good. And I just was just rocking out to it like, fuck, this slays. And then I'm like, is this another instrumental? I'm looking at the timestamp, it's like 2 minutes and something. I go,
and
no
then
vocals
he comes in.
And then he comes in, and I'm like, that was just fucking awesome.
But he doesn't do much in that song.
Doesn't do much either, yeah. There's not a lot of lyrics, yeah. So I thought that was really cool. That's it, man. Riffs, just awesome stuff. Oh, I'll mention one more thing. I noticed a lot of transitions on this album. Like, there's a lot of really cool riff transitions and sections of different songs. And I really like that they did that kind of stuff to kind of change things up. But they didn't do it so much to the point where things were chaotic. And I think some bands do take it too far, and some bands don't do enough. This, for me, was kind of in a really good sweet spot as far as switching things up and keeping things entertaining and fresh without, going too far on one end of the spectrum or the other. I thought that was really well done.
Yeah, I, on a first impression, loved this album. And like I said, I think more death metal bands should be sounding more like this band. Because we have commented on death metal, like as an overarching genre, and how there's been some staleness in some bands. There's a lot of death metal albums you can look at and be like, yeah, it's fine, it's got some good stuff, but like, it just feels like whatever, kind of run of the mill.
Yeah.
These guys do interesting and creative stuff, but still keep the brutal spirit of death metal alive in it.
Yeah.
And that is so impressive, especially which I believe this is their second LP.
Yeah.
Like 2 albums in and they're already doing stuff like this. That's amazing.
I mean, they were doing stuff like this on their first LP as well. That album slaps as well.
Yeah, I need to check that one out. I haven't heard it. But yeah, Hands of Eternity, still amazing. Ride the Flatline is also still cool, especially with Jamie's feature on it. You mentioned that about the title track. I thought that was super duper cool. I kind of felt with that intro, if you change up the drum groove a bit, it sounds a lot like Purity by Slipknot. I don't know if you thought that at all.
I didn't think that, but I mean, I could probably make that connection pretty easily.
I love how Release the Stench starts with just this wailing guitar solo that just keeps going. Like, Jesus, man, they're not letting up.
Release the Stench, that's a song about farts, it has to be.
I
didn't look up the lyrics, but come on.
So, Led to the Chamber, I thought it was a sick album interlude, like in the middle of the album.
Yeah.
You know, with the way that it goes, especially that they got the bells in there as well. Super duper cool. The synth in the background, also really, really cool and creative.
I didn't catch the synth. No.
And the way that that song builds, and then this awesome solo while the band's still riding this groove, like, oh, such a sick song. I like the riff in Defiled Gestation as well, and once again, it's cool that vocals are minimal in that song, and I think that's another cool creative decision. Like, oh wow, the song doesn't have vocals until halfway through, and he doesn't really even say much. Right?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool, especially because this is a death metal album. You don't see much creativity like this on these albums, so I'm glad that these guys are doing this, and almost everything has been standout. 29 minutes is short. It did not feel that short. I think it's because there's so many ideas in this album that it feels longer than it is.
That's true. That's true.
So, you know, that could be a good sign for it if, like, with repeated listens.
Yeah, well, we're going to have to see, because we're going to review 200 Stab Wounds Manual Manic Procedures for a whole week at 29 minutes. It's going to get a lot of plays.
It is.
And
I'm excited, though.
I'm excited, too, because I think there's a lot of interesting stuff going on here that we haven't even caught yet after just our first impression. So I think it's going to be a fun week. I'm looking forward to it. I've been looking forward to it for a while, and I'm happy that, you know, on our first impressions, this album delivered what we were expecting it to deliver, because we were pretty hyped for it based on the singles.
We were.
Anyways, guys, that's it for this first impressions video. So leave your thoughts down below and let us know what you guys think of these 2 new releases. And we'll be back next week to give you guys our full and final review of this album. So be sure to check back then for our scores. But for now, subscribe if you guys are new to the channel. I'm Vile Self.
I'm TV Fish.
I'll see you guys in the next one. Keep those heads bagging.